Hi, my name is DHIRAJ Singh, and I'm here on the MENFINITI Podcast to talk about a host of things. This is my first episode, and I'm going to talk about creativity. But before that, let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm what people often called a multi-faceted person. As a kid, I used to wonder what exactly that meant. But years later, I realized that facets are the cuts of a stone, like a diamond or any other precious stone. And the cuts make the stone brighter. As for me, many of my facets include my career as a writer, a journalist, a TV anchor, a documentary filmmaker, an actor, model, a manager of a whitewater rafting club, and now a university professor. And what I will be talking about today is how to become a creative person. Become being the keyword. Because I believe anyone can be creative. Creativity, like so many life skills, can be taught and learned. All you have to do is to practice and keep at it, at least for some time. I'm going to quote a very interesting study done by Adobe, yes, the Photoshop company. According to its 2016 Adobe Creativity Study, 70% of people believed creativity is important to the economy. But surprisingly, only 39% of people consider themselves creative. Now, that figure tells us something quite important, doesn't it? The same study pointed out that 75% of people felt they were not living up to their creative potential. This takeaway tells us something very important about our society, that increasingly is going towards becoming a creative economy. It also tells us that while many people recognize the importance of creativity, they either don't actively engage in creative pursuits or are limited in their creative expression. So, in this episode, I'm going to break down some of the key myths that we have swallowed hook, line, and sinker ever since we were little. Myth number one: creative people are born and not created. The myth is so strong that even parents tell their kids, Beta, you have to be creative to do that. And interestingly, it stems from the belief that creativity is a gift from God and is something that only a few gifted people possess. This myth is so powerful and so deeply entrenched in our mind that many highly educated people also believe in it strongly. And in this video, I'm going to show you some research-based evidence that points to the contrary. But first, let's understand where this belief is coming from. Many cultures, both our own and in the West, romanticize the idea of the creative genius. This narrative portrays artists, writers, innovators as inherently gifted individuals. This narrative can lead people to believe that creativity is not accessible to everyone. Secondly, we know from our own lived experience that traditional education often emphasizes standardized testing and academic success. We have entrance tests, we have final exams, continuous class assessments, and so on. And these can overshadow creative skills of the students. This kind of thinking from over 12 to 15 years of education may reinforce the idea that creativity is not important to success, or that creativity is inborn and only a few can have it. However, we realize that many out-of-the-box thinkers and philosophers have thought otherwise. Take, for example, Joy Paul Guilford, or J.P. Guilford. Born in 1897 in Nebraska, Guilford was a psychologist who made the study of human intelligence his pet project. In the 1950s, he introduced the concept of divergent thinking, which pointed out was a key indicator of creativity. Guilford found that while some individuals naturally excel in divergent thinking, but there was a sizable body of evidence to prove that training and practice significantly improved creative abilities of individuals who were once considered out of the pale of creativity. Another psychologist, Susan Carol Dweck, came up with a more interesting mindset theory. But first, let me share why Carol Dweck went in that direction. In a sixth grade class at the Brooklyn, New York school, students were seated in order of their IQ. Some responsibilities like erasing the blackboard and carrying the flag were reserved for students with highest IQ. She later spoke about how she became increasingly afraid to risk her reputation as one of the brightest children in a class by avoiding participation in a spelling bee and French competition. According to Dweck, individuals can be placed on a continuum according to their implicit views of where ability comes from. Those believing their success to be based on innate ability are said to have a fixed theory of intelligence, that is, fixed mindset. And those believing that success is based on hard work, learning, training, and doggedness are said to have a growth or an incremental theory of intelligence. Dweck's research highlights the difference between a fixed mindset, believing abilities to be static, and a growth mindset, believing abilities to be developed. Those with a fixed mindset may think that creativity is innate and cannot be cultivated, while those with a growth mindset embrace challenges and learn to be more creative over time. Her research also proved that a person's mindset often became an impediment in the way he viewed creative thinking. Various studies also demonstrated that creativity can be nurtured through specific training programs. For example, a study published in the Journal of Creative Behavior showed that participants' creativity training programs significantly improved the creative problem-solving skills, suggesting that creativity can be developed rather than being an inherent trait. American psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, in his book Creativity, Flow, and the Psychology of Discovery and Invention, also emphasizes that creativity is a function of personality and context rather than a fixed trait. The main premise of Hungarian-American psychologist was that the flow, which was a highly focused mental state that gave rise to creative productivity, insisted that creativity is not a mysterious talent reserved for a few, but it's a process that can be understood and cultivated. According to him, creativity emerges from the intersection of three elements: the individual's personality, the domain in which he was working, and the society, which provides the feedback and resources. Csikszentmihalyi describes the flow as a psychological state in which a person is fully immersed in a challenging but enjoyable task. When people experience the flow, they become deeply engaged, lose track of time, and feel a sense of control and fulfillment. What's more, Csikszentmihalyi argued that a flow is a central component of the creative process and can occur in any discipline, be it the arts or science or even business and entrepreneurship. The main takeaways from Csikszentmihalyi's work could be A. That creativity is a process. Creativity doesn't reside solely in some chosen or gifted individuals, but arises from the interaction between a person, his or her chosen domain, and a feedback system of the society. Point B, the role of flow. People are most creative when they are in a state of flow, where they are challenged but also have the skills to meet those challenges, leading to peak performance and creative breakthroughs. Think of Archimedes in the bath. He was most certainly in the flow when he shouted Eureka at having found the key to volume displacement in fluids. C. Creativity is cultivated, not inborn. Csikszentmihalyi emphasizes that creativity can be nurtured and developed, debunking the myth that it's a rare innate talent. And D. Impact of social context. A person's creativity is often shaped and recognized by how their work is received and valued by their peers or society. Which means creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires validation, which is why people doing podcasts ask you to like and subscribe their videos. Csikszentmihalyi's own work has many proofs. Scientists and innovators such as Thomas Edison and Albert Einstein emphasize that hard work, persistence, and the development of skills over time are not inborn. Edison was famously quoted as saying, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." So if you're someone who overthinks about doing something out of the box, something creative, something you've always wanted to but didn't have the stomach for it, my advice for you is to stop, jump right in, and you will see that not only are you a natural swimmer, but many of your past fears and phobias were quite unjustified. All you need to be creative is effort and adopting the right mindset. Let's call it creative confidence. And let me tell you, it is definitely not something that cannot be learned and practiced to perfection. Another strong myth that acts as a barrier to creativity is that people or creative people don't need a structure. Let me break down that for you too. How it is just as much a myth. For example, did you know Maya Angelou, the poet and author, maintained a disciplined schedule? Often working in hotel rooms, she would rise early, get dressed, and head to her writing table, where she would just write for several hours without interruption. She would also use a specific type of notebook and a typewriter, keeping her constant company. Angelou believed that having a dedicated space was as much important for her to maintain her focus. Japanese novelist Haruki Murakami also followed strict discipline where he wakes up at 4 a.m., writes for a few hours, exercises, running or swimming, and takes a nap in the afternoon. This emphasizes the importance of physical health for maintaining mental clarity and creativity. Same with Twyla Tharp, dancer, choreographer, and author of The Creative Habits, Learn It and Use It for Life. Tharp, who's in her 80s, starts a day with a rigorous workout routine, regardless of a schedule. She also dedicates specific hours of her creative work and keeps a dedicated schedule of her project and deadlines. Like so many hardworking and creative people, Tharp views her daily exercise as essential to her creative process. She believes that it helps her prepare mentally and physically for the challenges of her dance practice and her choreography, which is the art of creating a seamless story using body movements and music. John Grisham, American best-selling author of so many spy novels and thrillers, also is in the 90s Perspiration Club. Grisham wakes up early in the morning to write before starting his day job, which is of a lawyer and a politician, not the two easiest jobs to juggle. Grisham sets aside a specific time each day for writing and sticks to it diligently. He believes in writing consistently, even if it's just a few pages a day. Grisham's structured routine allows him to produce multiple bestsellers while balancing his legal and political careers. Another author is Stephen King, the fiction writer who has spooked us since we were kids with his horror stories. He writes every day, including holidays. He sets a daily goal of writing 2,000 words, usually in the morning. He also maintains a consistent writing environment, often in a quiet space at home. King lays out the importance of writing routine. Pablo Picasso, the most famous 20th century artist, too believed in the power of structure. And he was prolific throughout his long life. Picasso had a structured daily routine that involved working in the morning, taking a break for lunch, and then continuing to paint and sculpt in the afternoon. He often kept a sketchbook with him to capture ideas whenever inspiration struck. Our own Indian Picasso, M.F. Hussain, who again had a wonderfully long and highly productive life. He was painting till his last day that came when he was 95. Hussain too believed in the power of working hard. These examples illustrate that structured routines can enhance creativity by providing a framework for focus, discipline, and productivity. Each creative individual finds their rhythm that works best for them, demonstrating that creativity thrives in an organized environment. So, at the end of my podcast, let me ask you this. What creative work have you always wanted to try but felt you weren't creative enough? Or what strong childhood resistors have you faced that forced you to think that you were not cut out to be creative? Let me have your thoughts in the comments and I will see you again, only on the MENFINITI Podcast. Take care and don't forget to like and subscribe.